Hello, Devlin Bishop here with you, and welcome to another edition of my pirate radio show. And believe it or not, this is episode number 70. I can't believe I've actually done 70 of these, and still have lots to talk about. Yeah, I might start repeating myself after a while, but luckily there's always things happening in my world and the world that I can talk about. But hopefully I don't get to the point where it's just the same old thing over and over again, though some of you probably feel that way anyhow. But hey, if you're listening, that means you're still listening, so I must be doing something right. And anyhow, we have got another show. I can't really say if it's going to be a great show because I haven't finished it yet, you know. But we'll say it. I'm going to stay optimistic and say it's going to be a great show. Why not? Optimistic is a good thing. Anyhow, I'm going to start this show off with I don't know if this is going to be a new segment or not, but I think some people always wonder how come I never hit, once in a while I'll hit a topic, something that's fairly current that people are talking about on like social media or stuff, and I kind of avoid it unless it turns up in Topics Teaserama. So I decided I am going to talk about some things that I don't believe deserve a full segment, but so I'm going to call this segment Lip Service. And I'll know there's some dirty connotations to that, but what I mean with lip service is I'm going to give my views on some certain topics. And I call it lip service because of the fact that these are just my opinions, and that's all they are. You can agree with them, you can choose to not agree with them. The thing to know is that my opinion is not more important than yours, and it's not as worthless as yours, as in yours isn't greater than mine and mine isn't greater than yours. We're all allowed opinions, and that's what this segment's going to be. I like lip service. I just like it. I don't know why. It popped in my head. I think I heard an Alanis Morissette song, and I always giggled whenever I, heard, you just giving lip service? There's something funny about it. So, lip. Anyhow, I just like saying lip service. Okay, I got to get back on track because I'm trying to be serious here. This is my serious my serious portion of the show, and I can't start it off by just going lip service. Anyhow, we're going to start with one that's appropriate because we just passed Canada Day, and a lot of people have been talking about "Oh Canada" and changing it to more gender-friendly lyrics. The biggest lyric that people are talking about is "In All Our Sons' Command." I can't remember exactly what they want to change it to, but they want to change it to like something like "In All Our People's Command," or basically to make it gender neutral because of the fact that, women and trans and everybody else, fights for a country now and stuff. And then, of course, right after that, when you get people starting to talk about it, you get the next step, and it's just basically, well, while we're in there, why don't we get rid of like any references to God and stuff? And I get why people want to change "Oh Canada," and here's my situation on it. I honestly believe that I would rather them just write a new Canadian anthem. You can get rid of all your gods and religion. You can get rid of all your, just gender-specific stuff. You can just, and give us a brand new. Now, I like "Oh Canada." I think it's a very solid anthem. The problem I have with it is, as an artist, this was still written by people. And this was their thing. And if we start changing people's lyrics, where is it going to stop? Honestly, you might think I'm blowing it out of proportion, but does that mean that, we can start altering and changing other people's songs? I know it's an anthem that we all sing for our country and stuff, but be honest with you, where does it stop? After that, why not, Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper? We all want to have fun, so should we change that? I think "Oh Canada" is a work of its time, and I'm proud when I sing it loud, standing up. But I don't want to be changing the lyrics to something that was made. Like, somebody made this. It wasn't commissioned. This song was around before we officially made it our anthem in 1980. You know, this song was around practically over a century before we adopted it as the song officially that we were going to sing as our anthem. And my problem is the censorship aspect, and I can't believe a lot of people aren't talking about it. They're either saying we should change it or we shouldn't change it, but they're not talking about the whole censorship issue. That means that in the future, if we get away with this, we can basically change any song that basically we want to. So, you know, when all the Beatles are dead, we can go change all their lyrics to make their songs more perfect for the day. You know, why does she love you? Why can't he love you? Why can't they love you? And I know I'm probably, you know, some people are saying, you're writing a lot more into this. But honestly, I'd rather them write a whole new anthem. Just because I just have a real problem with the fact that we're altering somebody's song. And, you know, go write your gender specific or your godless versions of Oh Canada and, you know, force us to sing it in school and stuff. I just would rather that than having to, you know, not sing the original version. Next topic I want to talk about is, I'm not big on my politics. I do follow it a little bit, and I do, if it's stuff that concerns me, I do try to read a little bit in it, so if somebody asks me something, I don't come off looking like a total idiot. But I probably still do, because, you know, if it's an important thing, you know, I try my best to follow things. Since Justin Trudeau has gone into government, and no, I'm not getting political, I like Justin a lot. I voted for his party, and I'm not afraid to say that. And I like a lot of the stuff he's done. I'm not saying he's perfect by any means, but hey, he had a lot to come in to fix, and it's not going to fix overnight. The thing I do want to talk about is I recently started reading a lot about living wages. And I don't want to go too much into what it's all about, but basically it's a wage that we would get. And it wouldn't be like minimum wage, because this would actually be a little higher, and we'd actually be able to live on it. Now that is, of course, if you don't live beyond your means. But the fact that we just call it minimum wage tells us that it's probably minimum way less than what we should be making. But I've been told that, and what I've read about, living wages would actually see us actually having, basically we'd be able to live and maybe even save some money. And this is like a wonderful thing. And I'm really pitching that because the more I read about this, and the more I read about it, the more I say, well, it's not surprising I don't hear about this, because this is probably something that will never pass. But that's too bad, because all I hear about since Justin came in, or mostly, is legalizing marijuana. And I'm okay if you smoke or partake, that's your business, and I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying I can't believe that everywhere I look, I talk about legalizing marijuana, and underneath this all, there's a living wage, which I should be hearing a lot more in news, in social media, everything. A living wage is something that affects everybody. Legalizing marijuana does not. And living wage is something that could definitely help the world. Legalizing marijuana, I'm sorry if you're, sitting there smoking a joint while you're listening to this at 4:20, but it does not affect everybody. It does not change people's lives. Maybe, for people who use medicinal marijuana. But my big complaint here is it's funny how people will pick certain things we definitely need this to happen. I've seen documentaries on this. And here I just start reading little things about something called the living wage, which I should be more important than legalizing marijuana. But it's funny what the media chooses to focus on. But I'm even more shocked at how much social media. People on Facebook can talk about, they should be talking about living wages more than this. And quite frankly, it blows me away that it took me so long to hear about this. You know, now I've actually had to search out to find out about it. And if you don't know about it, you should look into it. And you tell me why you think people don't talk about it. Do I think this will ever pass? No, I don't think so. I think the world's just kind of, you know, the rich people stay rich and the poor people stay poor. I think that's the way it's always going to be. I don't want to sound pessimistic, especially since I started the show so optimistic. But honestly, I should be hearing a lot more about the living wage and people fighting for living wage instead of fighting for marijuana. Sure, if you're in pain and using it for medicinal, you have every right to be fighting for this for yourself. But if you're just some smoker who just wants to like be smoking this on your thing, you should look into a living wage, because this is something you should rebel against. And by all means, you know, rebel for whatever you want. But I just can't believe that there are more people out there supporting this than supporting living wage. All right, getting all riled up here. Got one more topic to talk about. And this one isn't even really, well, this is constantly in the news because to me it's just always there. And what I'm talking about is not even since Orlando, but for me Orlando really touched on it with the massacre there. And there's been multiple massacres since then that haven't been talked about. But I actually have touched upon this before, and it really bothers me that as soon as I see a tragedy in the world happen, I feel really sad that, you know, the world has come to this. And then I go to Facebook, and there was a time when people would be in sympathy, people would be mourning the loss of the people, you know, sending their support to the people that lived and the people they left behind, their loved ones, their family, their friends. But now you go on Facebook and within minutes people are already pushing their own agendas. Like, sure, can't we have a 24-hour period where if you really want to, I'm not telling you you can't be social on your own websites, but honestly, right after Orlando, within like an hour, I saw things against the church. I saw things against Muslims, things against terrorism, things against homophobia, and very little about the victims themselves, or as I said, the people they have left behind. Now, luckily, and knock on wood, I've never had anyone involved in a tragedy like this, and I hope I never do, and I hope you never do. But I can't even imagine what it would be like to lose somebody and then go on Facebook and just see people pointing fingers and saying, why gun control? That's another one I forgot. You know, we need gun control. It's so easy to get guns and that. You know, it would be so hard for me because all I'd be thinking about is that person, and I'd want to see some more positive things, and all I'd be seeing is, you blame the church, blame the Muslims, blame the... It's unbelievable that that's the first thing most people go to. I'm not saying everybody. And I'm fine with that. I am totally fine if that's what you choose to do. But at the same time, have a little respect for the people. Like, have a little respect for what people are going through at this time. But I almost get to the point where right after I hear about a big tragedy like this, I feel bad for them, and then I suddenly cringe because I know what Facebook's going to be like. I know what social media is going to be like. I know what the news broadcasts are going to be like. And I shouldn't be worrying about that stuff after a tragedy like this, but I do, because for a long time, places like that were my safe havens, and now that's not even safe. There's really no safe places in the world anymore, no matter how you state it. And you can't even go on social media and forget the world for a while because literally that's all you see. There was some spark of life because you see a couple people talking about the victims or posting stuff, or even people putting animal videos or pictures of their families and stuff was quite nice. I think that's just the way people deal with tragedy, but I really think sometimes you need to decide whether it really is a good way to deal with tragedy or not. But I almost cringe when I hear of a tragedy because I know it's going to end that way. And then it's just, to me, a meaningless fight. Like, eventually, you know, people blamed people how easy it is to get guns. And I even saw something about how men are raised. That's the reason for it. Like, really a reason to bash men on top of everything. The truth of the matter is everybody is different in my eyes. And you cannot put things. Yeah, I think it is too easy to get guns in the States. But look at the amount of people that own guns in the States. There should be a lot more tragedies. Honestly. Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole here. But you cannot say that every person who owns a gun is going to go out and shoot people. You know? Yeah, they might shoot things in their backyard. They might go hunting. They may use it for just security. But you could say that about any topic, that you can't group people all in the same way just because, you know, that's how you believe it. It all comes down to the individual. Yeah, there are some men that hate out there and have rage issues. There's a lot of women that have that too. It all comes down to the individual person. And until we find the whole story, yeah, it's easy to use it as a martyr to push your agenda, but that's not what it's about. Each case is an individual study. What I love most about these times is when a tragedy like this happens, when you hear of somebody being murdered or somebody massacring or somebody, you know, abducting a child. All the people that post those, we need mental health issues to be closer, you suddenly notice that those don't get posted anymore. Yeah, we can't justify that somebody who guns down a whole bunch of people in a nightclub might have mental issues. You know, that somebody who hurts children or animals, they might have mental issues. No. It's okay to support mental issues, but when something really horrible happens, suddenly mental issues goes out the door, because mental issues are just for, you know, for people that, you know, don't do anything. So I find it amazing how suddenly we don't see we need to let mental health issues be out there, pertinent. You know what? We do, and we have to take that in consideration in every situation. Just because it's something you don't like doesn't mean that there's not mental health issues. Education comes right down to it. We need to educate more, whether it's about gun control or people dealing with anxieties or their feelings. You know, but next time there's a tragedy, just at least wait a little while before you start pushing your agenda. Because honestly, there's got to be some healing. And not just for the people involved. When a big massacre happens, whether it's, you know, Orlando, or whether it's, you know, a bomb going off in Turkey, or something happening in Iraq or Iran, you know, we need to heal from it. Anyhow, that's my lip service for this time. I'm going to lighten it up a bit in the next two segments, but I'm glad I got that off my shoulder. And once again, these are my opinions, and they're not necessarily better than yours, but they are still my opinions, and I'm allowed to say them, and this is the forum I choose to say them. So we're going to take a short break, and I will be back to talk about something else that's weighing heavy on my mind. I'm back, and I've got more to talk about. This segment might not be totally politically correct, but since I've never claimed to be politically correct, deal with it at will. I want to talk about being a sex object. I know sex is a dirty word now, and we're trying to make it more and more dirty. I truly believe that. You know, you can see it everywhere, that sex is just on the verge of being considered naughty, considered everything. We're not allowed to talk about it anymore. You're not allowed to think about it. In some ways it makes it fun, because that means that when you are talking about it, it seems scandalous that, oh my God, I can't believe we're talking about this. But other times, you know, you should never be in a place where you feel badly because it's happening. But I just believe it's our building to a sexless society. And I'm not talking about sexless as in, you know, gender fluidity. I'm talking about sexless, and literally I believe we want to build a world where we don't talk about sex. We talk about breeding, producing, having children, but not having any joy from sex whatsoever. And it's working. For all the people behind it, a little applause for you. It's working. Although I don't think you should get applause, because I think sex should be still fun, talked about. Yes, it doesn't have to be inappropriate. It doesn't have to be forced upon anyone. But sex should still be fun and talked about. But that's not what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about me, myself, and I. I recently posted a thing that says I would still like to be treated like a sex object. Now, some of you are giggling because you've seen my pictures, and no, I probably am not considered a sex object. For the people who really know me, though, I do flirt, and a lot of people flirt back, and I love that, and I never want that to stop. A friend I used to work with, another older gay gentleman, I won't say his name in case he doesn't want to be known, but I remember one time when we were talking about sexual harassment in the workplace, he looked at me and said, "Some of us older guys, we want to be sexually harassed." And I agree with him on that. Just because of the fact that, you know, we all grow up and grow old, and when we do, there's a part of us that still wants to feel wanted. And, you know, maybe not everybody. Maybe it's not your thing. And, you know, maybe we are building generations that are not going to have to feel, they need to feel, you know, sexy and attractive. But I think it's something animal in us all. And I think there is a part of us that all want to. I've talked to many people, whether they're in relationships or not. And even if they're in the best relationship possible, they still like when somebody, you know, compliments them or flirts with them, because it makes them feel like, oh, look, I still got it. I find that when most people, I love when I see people who are like in burlesque or pinup, and, you know, I know a couple, and I love it because it's a very sexy format. But I love when they're like, you know, well, we're burlesque, and, you know, that is all right because we're taking control of it. But I also like the fact that as long as it's somebody they're attracted to hitting on them, it's okay. But if it's somebody they're not attracted to, you know, then it's sexist. It's like, you're treating me like a sex object. At my age, men, women, people I'm not attracted to, people I am, I don't care. I just like the attention. I know there's some of you probably shaking their heads like, I cannot believe he's talking about this, but it is something that worries me. I once read in an article that when men hit 55, I think 55 is right, it might be even less, but when you hit 55, you become invisible to the world. You basically do not have that many opportunities of people saying, you know, you're an attractive man. I'd like to flirt with you. And that scared the shit out of me when I read that, because I'm skating into that. I'm moving in towards that, and I don't want to become invisible. In fact, sometimes I feel I'm invisible already. And anybody who's ever felt that way. And now I've got some friends that, as I said, I flirt with. You know, Mike still makes me feel very attractive. And I have some friends that still flirt with me, but I'm afraid that I'll lose that at some time. And yes, I am a needy person. I will be the first to say that. But I think there's a side of us that all still like to feel it. Whether it's just a small thing or need, it to be really, condensed. I feel selfish just talking this way, but I feel safe talking about this because, well, you've obviously clicked on this to hear my views, so hopefully you don't think. But you know what? Even if you do think, I don't really care. But I bet you have felt that way too. That you've had times where you just felt, geez, I wish I was sexy. I think a lot of people got what I was saying because when I put the status up, I didn't get reprimanded for it. In fact, some people thought it was very funny. Other people flirted with me in the status. Because I think some people get it. We all want to feel sexy at times. And so I was just stating that, please feel free to flirt with me. One of the people commented, do you mind if it's like women? Being that you're a gay man. And I said, you know what, at my age, I'll take anything I get. I do good with older women. I like their company, I like their time, and I like to flirt with them. Even though I may not be, sexually attracted to them, that doesn't mean I'm not attracted to them as a person. And, as I get older, I find that I'm more and more attracted to people, and it's mostly because I get to know you. And, we've talked about sexuality before. You can see somebody that's hot and automatically say, oh, that guy's hot. But it's the personality that eventually wins you over. I've also met very hot people that I actually sat down and talked with. And by the end of it, I thought, wow, it's lucky you have your looks because you literally have nothing else going with you. And the other way, I've met people that are very... I wouldn't be immediately attracted to them, and then getting to know them or seeing their talent, and then suddenly I'm attracted to them. I think I'm like that. Obviously, I don't have, people don't look at me automatically and think, God, he's sexy. I don't even think people say that anyhow, but I like to think that people have said, God, I'm sexy at some point. But the truth of the matter is I do get a lot of compliments, and, some people have told me I have a great smile, or, I'm just full of life, and people like that about me, and when they call me handsome, that's, that does it for me. That helps me. But the truth of the matter is sometimes I do feel like I have that, and I can feel when my machismo is on, and my, I do. I think I've talked about it in the past that I do sometimes feel sexy at times. But like most humans, there are a lot of times that I don't. And, yeah. I think with me, people have to get to know me. And then I think when they get to know me, that's when they start, saying, hey, he's attractive. I'm attracted to him. And as I said, it's hard for me to sit there. I can say, yeah, I feel like a sex symbol sometimes, but there's a lot of times where I don't. I don't feel like that at all. I just feel like, people are humoring me. But sometimes I try to forget that and say, you know what, enjoy whatever you get. If people are jokingly flirting with you, that still counts. The fact that they're still giving you their time, their energies. I remember a couple of awkward moments where I was with some people, and I was talking with this one guy who we were starting to get a real rapport. And he was telling me about how he can't talk to women. And then he, we'd flirt a little bit, we'd have a great conversation, and then I said, well, I don't see why. You're a great guy, you have a lot to offer, and you have no problem talking to me. And then he said to me, yeah, but I'm not trying to get into your pants. And I know he was being honest and stuff like that, but it almost kind of took away the fun, if that makes sense. Because I knew all the flirting and fun we had was just basically just a game, a gag. Even though in my mind when it's happening, I know it is anyhow. I'm committed to Mike. It's not like it's going to go far. But when that happens, it just was awkward. And I think he felt that after he said it, he kind of hurt me a little bit, because you still always want that possibility, that lingering mystery that, maybe some magic sparks would fly and something would happen. God, I'm feeling like a real douchebag talking about this, but that's the wonderful thing about having a show. You get to let your douchebag side show up every once in a while. But anyhow, it really put me on the spot. One of my favorite memes is one that said, "Feel good about yourself. Somebody has masturbated to you just once in your life." Now, some people are probably in shock, clutching their pearls, like that's the most disgusting thing. When I saw that, I loved it. I loved it, and I love the fact that, yes, I would like to think somebody in their life has thought about me when they masturbated. I'd like to go one step further. I'd like to think that somebody was with somebody else having sex and they thought of me. I can't imagine that ever happening. I don't even think the people who have ever had sex with me have been thinking about me when I'm with them. But I know it's wrong for me to feel this way. Or is it? We're all guilty of it. We've all wanted a little attention from people. I've talked to many people who are in relationships that, committed, strong relationships, who still feel down because somebody they thought they were attractive turned out it didn't work out that way, even though there was no potential of them wanting to cheat or anything. I guess as humans, we kind of still want to think that it could happen. I'd love to hear what other people think, whether you totally think I'm just some sick, egotistical person right now, or if you agree with me that this is human nature. And, they always say in a relationship, there's one that's more likely to cheat. I have to confess, I'm the guilty one in that one. I would be the one that would be listed as the one. One, just because I have lots more opportunities. I just don't... I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I think everybody... I don't always buy when people tell me that they're in a relationship that's 100% perfect. I think I get loyalty, I get commitment. I am very loyal to Mike. I am very committed to Mike. I would do anything for him. I would be devastated if something happened to us. I'd be even more devastated if something happened to us because I did something stupid. But I think just wanting to feel sexy and wanting to be wanted by others, and even wanting there to be possibilities that I could be with others, I don't think that's a crime. Like Prince has a line in one of his songs, if I'm considered guilty for, if I could be, I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like, if it's in the song Electric Chair, if a man is considered guilty for what goes on in his mind, give me the electric chair for all my future crimes. I think about sex a lot. Like, it's unbelievable that I actually go to work, do a podcast, teach improv. It's unbelievable that I get any work done with the sheer amount of times I think about sex. And I'm not trying to be dirty or shocking here. I'm just trying to be honest. It's just, yeah, I'd be put away for life for the imagery and the things I've imagined in my life. But, it's in my mind. I don't take it from there. And I'm sure there's a couple of dirty Pete's out there as well. And I don't know why I called you Dirty Pete's. I've never even heard that phrase before. Maybe I've started something. And I'm certainly not trying to offend any of the Pete's or Peters that I know there. Dirty Pete's. I like it. But anyhow, I know some of you must have had things, because I cannot be the only person in this world that is a dirty-minded bastard that, feels like this. I'm kind of glad I talked about this, although this is probably one of those segments that I'm going to regret after I hear it later and think, oh, God, I cringe. Most of the time I can get through segments, but when I talk about topics like this where I need to be sexy, I want to be a sex object, I know this is something, but I hope when I listen to this, maybe when I'm older, I'll kind of get a giggle out of it too, and I don't just like, oh, get rid of it, destroy it. I like that I can talk honestly like this, because I'll be honest, it scares me that sex has just become a dirty, dirty word. We can't even talk about it. We can't think about it. We can't do it unless it's procreating, breeding, producing. I don't think sex has to be practical all the time. It scares me that we're heading to a world. I love when I'm with friends and suddenly there's a great discussion about sex. It can be a little embarrassing for me because I don't have all that much experience. And then when I hear stuff they did, I'm just like, I wanted that. I wanted that. I wanted that so bad. I wanted to be a slut. But I'm scared that we're losing that. That you mention sex and then suddenly like, oh, I gotta go. So I'm glad that I'm not afraid to talk openly about this. And I tell you, if you flirt with me, find me attractive in any way, please do. Because I'm not going to stop flirting with you or finding you attractive or dreaming unmentionable things in my mind. And yes, I may very well be talking to you. Anyhow, that's enough of it. That's enough sex talk. Besides, I'm starting to turn myself on, and that's not a good thing for radio. I got one segment to go, and it's a nice, sweet, innocent one, and I can't be doing it with a raging erection. I am totally going to regret this segment in the future, but I'm going to enjoy it now. Let's take a break. I'll be right back. Devlin here with you, and welcome back to my pirate radio show. One of my favorite Olivia Newton-John songs is Have You Never Been Mellow? It was a big hit for her back in the 70s. And even Olivia herself said that when she first recorded the song, she absolutely adored it. But she even admits that maybe when she was young, she didn't really get the full meaning of this song. And now that she's older, she kind of understands it more than she ever did. And, well, I have to agree with her there, because I actually have started to really understand that song. Sure, I sang along with it every time it came on the radio or I played it, but I'm starting to listen to the lyrics, and the lyrics basically speak of how when we were younger, we desperately needed everybody to hear our word. And when we get older, we just live in the fact that, things slow down. We don't have to be in people's faces all the time. I know that's funny coming from somebody who podcasts and cams all the time now. But the reason I decided to do a segment on it is not just the song, but the sentiment. Because I think our world has gotten stupidly busy and stupidly fast. And I have to say, a man that I met at Value Village during a sale inspired me to do this. And I felt it was an important topic to talk about. Why so important? Because he was telling me about how he came to our sale and was so happy to see that he could get into the fitting rooms rather quickly because he had went to another Value Village and he said that there was like an hour and a half wait. He said that was just not acceptable. People just don't have time for that anymore. Now, I'll admit, I would not wait an hour and a half to try on anything. I would not wait an hour and a half to get on an amusement park ride. I remember a time I waited way more than an hour and a half for movies, but even that I don't think I could do anymore. But when I see it, I see that people are just in a rush all the time now. On Seniors Day at Value Village, I have moments where there are people that there'll be 3 cashiers open, and each cashier has one person that they're working with. And there'll be people complaining that there's not enough cashiers open. When I see stuff like that, I just don't get it. Like, our society has gotten so crazy, and you hear everything at Value Village. Well, I just popped in quick. Well, first of all, never just pop in quick, because you don't know how things are. Especially if you come on a sales day or seniors day or something. You know, I'm sorry you're going to be late for work or late for that doctor's appointment. There's one lady that I swear every week she's late for a doctor's appointment and uses it, and usually people are good enough to let her butt in line, and I think to myself, I wouldn't let her in. She uses this excuse all the time. But it's not just older people, it's younger people. It's just we fill up our time so much now that we seem to have this agenda. I've got to be here at 3 o'clock. I have to be here at 4 o'clock. Then I have to move over here. And I'm just starting to realize that we're not taking the time to really enjoy life. Like, I understand now why people don't like using the phone anymore, you know. There was a time I remember talking to people on the phone for ages, and it was wonderful. Could hear their voice and everything. But now you can do it in a quick text. Text back and forth. Just keep looking, you know, just... And that's why I decided to do a segment on the fact that I think we have to kind of get back to the world where we just take a breath and just enjoy moments, because I don't think we do that anymore. You know, we're all about, you know, getting to the next thing we have to do. And we don't take those moments where we just enjoy everything we have in life. We want more. We need more. But we don't really. We need to learn about needs and wants. And we definitely need time to just breathe. Don't get me wrong, I love when I'm busy and I'm going to, I have to meet with a friend here and I got to go do this and that. But times I cherish are when I'm by myself and I get to do some personal projects. Whether it's a podcast where I'm talking to you guys, or if I'm just working on something fun that I do on my own. I also like those moments where I spend time with Mike and we're just doing nothing and just hanging out together. You know, maybe one of us is, you know, reading, the other one's watching TV, but we're there and we don't need a big production to stay close. And I have many friends that I can do that with. But I think we don't relish that time anymore. I think we just try to fit as much thing in the day as possible. And then at the end of it, we may have an epiphany where we say, God, I wish I enjoyed that party a little more. I wish we stayed a little longer. I wish we had that conversation a little longer. I've talked a lot about losing the art of conversation, but we're losing the art of just being. Everything has to be sped up and got to get as much done as possible. But there's nothing better than just enjoying the time. And not just, to me it's funny because people are like, well, I'm busy, but I can't wait till my next vacation. Well, it's funny because we're still planning that vacation. It's not like a case of, you know, you buy your tickets, you got your thing, and okay, in a couple weeks I'll be on a trip, and I'm going to finally here's my rest time. To me, that would be even more stressful because you're forcing your rest time in that. To me, it would be much more better than, me working on the computer and then somebody, hey, you want to go grab a milkshake? And then just dropping everything and just going having an adventure, having a nice sit and chatting with a good friend. To me, that would be more spontaneous, or just waking up in the morning with your partner or your good friend and saying, you know what, let's take on an adventure. Let's just drive somewhere. But sadly, we're all about schedules and agenda, and I think the thought of being mellow is crazy. Now, I don't care what you do in your mellow time, whether you're just relaxing, you're reading, whether you're playing video games. It's still all very important. But it's sad that we're all rushed. We always seem to be rushing. I've seen people that look like they're rushing and they have no place to get to. You know, I've talked to them. They're retired people and they're like, oh, I got to do this and this and this. And I go, you're retired. You can do that stuff any day you want, but you still have an agenda. Now, don't get me wrong. I like having a schedule. When I was out of work and didn't know what I was doing, there was a side of me that kind of liked the openness of it, but there was another side of me that absolutely hated it. Because I like having a schedule. I think I work better on a schedule. But don't get me wrong, there are moments that I drop the schedule and I just say, screw it. I need a couple of hours to myself. Even Mike sees it. He tells me, I think you need some time for yourself. You should go do something or go see somebody. I think it's important. And it's not like we teach it. We don't teach our kids to enjoy the moment. We just try to give them as many moments as possible and hope they'll remember it. I remember I did a show about my parents, and I talked a lot about times that didn't seem very epic. You know, we had done some family trips and stuff, and I like talking about that too. But I just talk about little situations. And I remember a couple of days later, a woman who went to the show with her husband said that your husband had a real impact on that show because he said, the kids, it always doesn't have to be magical, memorable. Because it's the little things they're going to remember too. And I kind of like when she told me about that, because I actually got someone thinking that. Because when I remember my parents, I don't necessarily think of all the great places they took me or all the toys they bought me. I think of little things like my dad watching, Barnaby Jones and me, playing at the table, maybe drawing or something. Not that I was interested in the show, but I like just being in the same room for him. To me, that's a great memory. But it's not exactly a memory you'd think. Now I see parents and they have to go do 9 million things. The kid always has to be entertained. And then when the kids are teenagers, they wonder why the kids are always bored. Well, it's because there was a time that you schlepped them around everywhere and made sure that every moment they had to do a hobby or a skill. I think that's a big part of it. And I'm not trying to blame you parents, but I really don't think kids have enough time to play or read. And for the parents that do give them that time, I commend you because I think it's a good thing. I've been with a couple of kids that could actually just sit in a room and listen to parents talk and without being disruptive and being part of the conversation, or just play quietly with, by themselves. But most of the time when I'm with kids, they're just constantly, I'm bored. I need something to do. I need a snack. I want to. And you know what? I get that. I was a kid. I remember being bored times. Of course, I never told my parents that. But I don't blame the kids because they've been overstimulated in so ways, The fact that we put so much on them now, But I think we can regain getting back to being mellow. I think when we get older, we start realizing that a little walk by yourself or with a good friend is a good thing. I was never going to talk about this, but a friend of mine asked me if I'd ever be interested in meditating. And I told him, honestly, I never thought of it. But after that, I did some research and found some meditation tools online through YouTube. I told him I don't know if I really want to go to a meditation class, but I have thanked him for pointing me in that direction because every morning now I kind of do a little bit of meditation where I try to get out of my head and do the breathing and everything, and then mix it with a little bit of exercise. And I'll tell you, since I've been doing that, it's just been a lot different. I've dealt with anxieties better. I've dealt with my own emotions better. I'm not saying I'm perfect or changing my life, and it's way too soon to tell, but I do know something's changing inside of me since I've started doing it. I hope everybody can find their sense Because I do know there's some people that just, I've talked about in the past the art of being alone. And being mellow doesn't have to be alone. I look forward to times when, I've just been busy every weekend, whether it's work or, you know, things I had to do. And I look forward to like, oh, I'm going to have a movie night with my friends. We're going to put on some videos. We're going to put on some DVDs. We're going to have some junk food. And we're just mellow. We just laugh together. We have a great time. It's perfect to me. And that's mellow because we enjoy the moment. I used to do these big elaborate movie nights that people still talk about. And I do them to a smaller level now. But I love that it's a memory for them now. And I think they try to savor it now. Because when we were young, it was just there. We were just happy to be with one another. We lived in the moment. I think it's important now that we discover that our time is precious. Because when we're young, we just try to do everything we possibly can. Talking about being over mellow, I'm shocked at the amount of sleep that young kids get. Maybe it's just me, but when I was a teenager, I was so anxious to get on to life. I basically always woke up early. Whether I'd watch TV for a bit, or I'd write stuff, or go out and play eventually. But I'm amazed when I hear, when I talk to young people now, I'm constantly, how are you today? Tired. And then they tell me how their weekend they basically spent sleeping. And don't get me wrong, sleep is very important. Sleep is very important. But the fact that, basically, I just think, God, you're young. You should have all the energy in the world, and you don't. And not sure why you don't. Because you still have time on your side. But, we're raising people that are basically, they have bad backs when they're teenagers. They need to sleep way too much. And their anxiety level is through the roof. I fear that they won't know the ability of being mellow. And I'm guilty of it too. When my nephew Jonathan comes to visit, I try to plan everything with him. I want to show him stuff. I never want him to be bored. Last time he came, I got one of my favorite movies on Blu-ray. A movie I had no planning on showing him. But he actually asked me if we could watch it. I was afraid because I just didn't want him to not like it, and he just wanted to see something that I loved. And he wound up enjoying it. It was Phantom of the Paradise. And then I realized that maybe I think too much. Like, we always have to do stuff. We always have to keep him stimulated. And the stuff he's probably going to be remembering, that the time we spent is not the adventures we went on. Yes, they will be good memories too. But it's those quiet times when his uncle showed him one of his favorite movies. When we had a nice talk before the drive-in starting. Anyhow, I know I've been off topic several times, but I feel it's something we're all losing, and I'm glad that I've recaptured it back. I've always been able to enjoy a mellow time, but now I realize that time is precious, and we really desperately need to learn that. That's why when we get older, we start moving away from people that have drama. When I was younger, I never understood why some people stayed away from their families. And then I found out when you're older that you basically start staying away from people that make you feel negative about yourself. We tend to spend our time with the people that we love to spend our time with and wish we could spend more with them. Some people we can't spend that much time with, so it's important for us to cherish those moments that we have with them. Not spend them worrying about what's going to happen or what's going to happen. And yes, I'm guilty of this. Guilty as sin. But not anymore. I'm trying to get past that and just enjoying being with the moment. I don't want to end this show being morbid, but It is truthful when they say that time is fleeting and it goes by really quick. If you're a young person listening to this, your days are going to seem a lot shorter soon. Years are going to go by quicker. Suddenly you're going to see people that you knew growing old. And you're going to realize that your time is less and less on this earth. So why not grab it now? Why not call up a friend and say, hey, let's head out somewhere? Or why not cancel something you really don't want to do? You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And spend some time watching, reading a book, watching a show, listening to my podcast. Okay, shameless plug. I'm trying to get deep, but I can still be shameless. Time is precious. And as soon as we learn that, life begins to change in a positive way. If you're still trying to squeeze everything in it, well, it's going to be a little harder for you to find those moments. But I hope you do. Now, that being said, I think I'm going to wrap things up, as you are now listening to me wrapping things up. And I hope you go out and take some time for yourself. Or call up somebody you haven't seen in a while and say, hey, let's do coffee. I've had a great time, and thank you for spending it with me. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon.